Raider, the final game of the Tomb Raider reboot trilogy. Over some things. One thing, real quick. File right here. Beginning of the game, there's around 12 cutscenes in downtime, and obviously that would be kind of annoying at the beginning of every reset. So we file here in order to avoid all of that. Voice is a bit low. What's that? Okay. I need to adjust it. Better? Okay, cool. Alright. So anyways, we start from a save file here to avoid all that downtime. And also I'm playing on D for this, which is smart and resourceful. It's really just a preference matter what difficulty you play on. I D because it gives you an auto aim during combat. The few fights that we do in this run, quite a bit easier. Yeah, I think with all that considered, we'll go ahead and... So 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. Right out of the gate, we start with when you load a save from the main menu like this, the game can take quite a while to load that save. But this shouldn't take too long. Alright, so we start off here in Cozumel. In the story of the game, we play as Lara, of course. We are with our good friend Jonah, trying to find, or who are trying to track this organization named Trinity. The thing with Trinity is that they steal ancient artifacts for their own malicious purposes, and in this case they're called the Silver Dagger. I don't want them to take that dagger. By taking that dagger, they would cause an apocalypse scenario to occur. So first I'm going to shoot this arrow at the ground here. That'll work. So I can go over to this corner. I notice this shot's fired, but I want to avoid getting shot. Oh, did I get it? Yeah, there we go. So I just squeezed myself between the palm tree and the wall there, and we're out of bounds. And this is something you'll see me do a lot throughout the run. There's little out-of-bounds clips like this that we do quite a bit of throughout the run to here avoid a climbing section. I'm going to do a bit of a leap of faith here, and hopefully, alright, that looks good. So by doing that leap of faith, we hit a checkpoint, or a trigger rather, that put us into the Hunter's Moon quest line, which puts us into the caves here. So this beginning part of the run is very, like, big skip after big skip pretty much, because we'll be doing another glitch here after that initial out of bounds, which is something called scramble clipping. Hopefully it works. Looks good. So there is I aimed in one direction and held backwards, and then held backwards and aim while looking in a different direction from when I scrambled before. I had collision issues to occur with Lara's hitbox, which allows us to clip up walls and clip through walls like I did just there. I'm gonna try it again here because I kind of got stuck on that first attempt. If this takes too long, I'll just do the intended route through this area. It only wastes about a minute to go the intended route. Uh-oh. There we go. I thought I was stuck for a moment, but we managed to squeeze through. So I scrambled the clip up there to get on top of this area. Climbing mechanics, or rather the swimming mechanics, and how to deal with traps. Doing this out of bounds here, we can skip that. And I also need to reload checkpoint as soon as I got into the area, because when you first get into this area after going out of bounds like I did at the very start, The level is actually not properly or fully loaded. I get imbalanced by swimming in that one spot there. Alright. Real puzzle of the game. We have to get to the top of that pyramid, silver dagger. To get to the top of the pyramid, we puzzle actually, where we manipulate the positioning of these bell platforms here. But we can actually skip all of the puzzle in the speedrun, as you'll see in a moment. First, I'm going to try to do a trick here. Time saver. It's not a big deal if I don't get it. Alright, I got it. So by going as quickly as I could, basically, I was able to avoid a short walk and talk sequence with Jonah. So that part right there where I push the cart, that's about the only part of the puzzle that I'm going to do as intended. I'll see why that is in just a moment. Also going to do a small time saver right there. You're normally supposed to climb up to that top rung and then fall down, but if you time your jump right and position it well, you can get to that top rung without having to. So there's actually a different method used for this skip that's a little faster, but it's safe and very risky. So I'm going to do a safer alternative instead. For that, though, point reload to get rid of that rope. Alright, so I'm going to get on top of this brick, hopefully not fall off. And with this spot here, I'm going to jump and throw the grappling hook basically when she gets to the apex for jump. Which it's a pretty tight timing, so hopefully I get it. There's no one to get onto this really tiny platform. Ah, damn it. A bit off. I ended up falling off that wooden platform I was supposed to land on there. It's really hard to land on that because it's such a tiny hitbox. See, I can explain how airwalking works, I guess, since I messed up that last part. So essentially what I'm doing is, as you can see, I'm throwing the grappling hook during the jump animation. If I time it right, hopefully I get it. If I time it right, Lara will to the same frame. Use this state here, where you can move through the air. Alright, God, I swear, landing on that platform is really hard, like I said. So there's yet another skip here, and this is one that was found relatively recently, so I'm not super familiar with the setup. So hopefully I get it. I'm gonna give it a few tries and then do the normal route through this area. Come on, work with me, game. I swear this works. Oh! We almost got it. We're almost there. Oh boy. You know, I'm just gonna do what I was intended. That's a shame. So what I was trying to do was, I was trying to do another scramble clip on top of this tunnel and skip an encounter I'm about to have with. It's fine if I don't get it though. It only saves like 30 seconds, so it's no big deal. So I'm gonna get a quick stealth kill on that guard. And there's can go here. Two swings up that hill and it avoids a slow walk section there. So I'm gonna prep the shots 3 guards. And this is where you'll get to see the odd. that's about the only fighting we do, and this next phase of the fight can essentially be. Hopefully I get it. Oh, never mind. Hit the... So what I was intending to do was sneak over to the other side of the arena and avoid the fight. So I checkpoint reload once that checkpoint triggers 2 soldiers right here in a more consistent position. Unfortunately, I didn't get it. It was go through this to avoid that one guy spawning to the left. It kind of went haywire, but you know, it still worked out, I guess. So yeah, we got as the main antagonist of the, but we had to skip it. Dagger that we don't actually have because we just skipped it a bit ago. I think it's about it because the silver kind of the entire is kind of the catalyst behind plot of the game. But we skip it in a speed. Really, the plot of this game is not canon in an 80% run. So yeah, this is the we have to steer layer. It's really not too difficult. You just have to steer and hit things because there are some points later in the section here where if you hit it instantly, so we just have to be careful of that. And also have to wait till that shutter moves forward. Otherwise, you kind of for a bit. So this is the first real swimming section. We kind of did a bit of swimming earlier when I went out of bounds in the caves, but this is the first real swimming section that we do inbounds. I just have to swim over to this door. It's pretty simple. But I'm going to do a trick here once I do this QTE to open the door. There we go. Playing trick avoids the animation of Lara opening the door and squeezing through the doorway. GT optimizations that we do in this game. The thing I do for runs that I haven't yet is I have the melee and interact keys bound to 2 keys. For interact, I have down to E. For melee, I have F and 0 on my keypad. Just events a tiny bit faster. I probably it doesn't make too much of a difference, but I do it anyway. So coming up is our first climbing section. Climbing is really off because they're really sluggish in that they're very delayed. For example, a point coming up where I'm going to climb on some ledges that's in the background there. And if you switch directions too quickly, Lara will instead go the direction you were holding previously. And that can happen when you're jumping, and so you can have a case happen where you switch directions to jump up to a ledge, and instead of jumping up, Lara will instead jump to the side, which more often than not results in her falling to her. Here where I hold right and mash jump during this guy. I hold right and mash jump during that cutscene, so as soon as the cutscene ends, I'm already hopping over to the next ledge I need to jump onto. Alright, so that's the first area done. Kinda had some screw-ups with the new trick, but I wasted like a minute, so I'm not too upset with that. This is the first of many unskippable runs. There's like, I think 12 to 14 minutes of these total, and this is an hour and 15 minutes or so in an ideal run. But just bear with me, we'll get through it together. But yeah, what's happening in this cutscene is in that bit where we got the silver dagger, in quotes, we came across this mural, trail of clues as to how to stop this apocalypse that Lara accidentally triggered. And so Lara and Jonah here are going to go on follow that trail of clues by flying to where the next clue is, which is going to be this area named Kuwagyaku. And I mentioned just a bit ago that these certain cutscenes in this game are unskippable. I think the reason for that is because since this game is the finale of the Tomb Raider reboot trilogy, like I said at the start, they really to go all out with this game and finish it off with the office and made them in the entire. So that's good for a casual playthrough because you get rid of it that way. But because the maps take forever to load, that's a hey wondering mind, and because of that, we end up having to sit through a lot of cutscenes. And the reason these cutscenes are unskippable is I mentioned before these maps take forever to load. The way the game determines that scenes is the and again because these maps are so big, the level never fully loads before the next cutscene.
We have to trust each other.
That we have to sit through these cutscenes, but beast of this game.
I have something over here.
Really? That's it.
So yeah, their next destination, as I mentioned before, turns out to be there in the background that they just saw, which is where we'll be going next. Unfortunately, we're doing this right now, and you'll see the consequences of that in a little bit.
Is there anywhere to land?
Our pilot here is not going to live for much longer, unfortunately. Oh yeah, the storm right now is definitely not a concern at all. So yeah, unfortunately, the pilot dies by getting struck by that hail that goes through the window. So Lara here is going to try to get the plane back up to speed. Unfortunately, it's not going to work though, and they're going to crash into the jungle, which is where the next area of the game is going to be. Alright. So finally, after about probably 4 minutes of cutscene, we can get back to some gameplay. And we get to Peruvian Jungle, which is where the next area is. This is probably the most straightforward and chill part of the run, to be honest, because there's not a whole in terms of the game that to keep in mind is I'll be wanting to guys for later. Some things I'll be needing to craft later. This game, like with most other games, does have a crafting component to it. And like I said, there's a few things I'll need to craft. In particular, I'm picking achiotes here, because they'll be useful for making healing items. In particular for one part where I'll be forced to heal. And I also need wood there to craft some arrows later. There are some arrows we'll end up using in the run. And I'm jumping here because you're for run, and jumping is faster than walking. So, like I said, this area of the run is pretty straightforward. Not a whole lot we can do in terms of glitchiness. Once we get out of this area, though, and we come across Jonah again, the game gets fun, and it doesn't really stop from there. And you'll see what I mean when we get to that point. For now, we just kind of have to do this section of the game as is. I've had a thing happen here. Like, it's rare, but it's happened, where I edge or drop off of a ledge that you're normally supposed to be on for, and because the game sees that you've fallen off the ledge, Lara just teleported up to the ledge. a rather weird thing I've had happen a couple of times.
Hello?
And I'm gonna grab some wood for more arrows.
Can you hear me?
Alright, so for this part, we need to get our gear back. Specifically, we need to get our bow back. But
Gears in that car.
a problem comes up. It's being held up.
A piece of scrap from the wreck.
It's in some box. Some cut those ropes down. And Lara's idea for that is to get a knife out of this propeller here. Fortunately, it falls in the water, so we're gonna have to dive down and retrieve it.
Damn it.
We're gonna come across an eel here that tries to bite us, which we're gonna kill with QTE. Interesting thing about the QTE, there's actually a feature in this game that you can use where if you just hold down the button for the QTE, the game mashes through the QTE for you. This is actually safe, sure it's the same speed as manually mashing through the QTE, so I just manually mash. I have to find to sharpen my knife. These boxes, they are on a consistent spawn, every single randomized. Right up to them since I know where they are. I'm gonna try to sharpen, which gives me an objective that prompts me to use the campfire knife. So I'm gonna
This is all my fault.
go get some, equip one skill here, which is the only skill I get in the entire run.
I hope no one else was harmed. Nor the village destroyed. I need to
Alright.
stop these cataclysms.
So anyway, the skill I just got there, it's called Riposta's Drop. I'll explain what that does in a moment, but first I have to do some more important things. Which is to change this costume right here. Look at those polygons. Alright, so what the Riposta's Drop skill actually does is it gives you the ability to roll when you land on the ground after doing to the rolls, because that's the fastest way to move Lara around in these games.
Now I can do
Let's So we got our bow back. Continue on with the forest as normal. Essentially, now we've got our gear back, we're gonna try to find our pilot as well as Jonah. The pilot died. He got hit by the hail and got knocked unconscious, but afterwards he also got mauled alive by some jaguars. Here, and they don't like that we invaded their territory like we did, so we're gonna have to do a fight with them coming up.
God.
Best polygons of all time, exactly. It's gonna be great, because there's some cutscenes later in the game, the unskippable ones that we have to sit through. They're really funny with the two skin on. So you'll definitely want to keep. So for that entire stretch you can't jump, but for that one bit you can. So I squeeze in a jump roll there. Alright, so now we have to fight the jaguar. Essentially what we have to do with the jaguar is shoot him a bunch with arrows in order to eventually kill him. And the nice thing about this fight is he occasionally goes in between those burrows after you hit him enough. And they spend going between burrows to grab supply. I'll mainly want to grab Achiotes, like at the force healing bit that the game will have to do in a bit. Some wood for more arrow crafting. And also some cloth, because I'll be needing to craft an explosive weapon later. So once we shoot the first Jaguar will come out, which will kill in a cutscene. This heal needs to get at least 3 Achiotes to be able to heal up there after that fight. Yeah, we can heal up after that like normal. Yeah, the Jaguar is a bit of a health sponge. And we normally fight him later in the game as well, but we're going to skip them, as you'll see in a moment. First I have to climb up this rock wall here. You can climb up here and avoid climbing up that other ledge. It saves a few seconds. Alright, so after this cutscene, where we finally meet up with Jonah again, I'm going to take a seat. Campfires essentially act as a separate reload if you happen to mess up, which would be good because there's some skips later in the run where if I didn't do that, I would get set really far back. So that jump across the gap is really hard, so it's good that I got that. Alright, so similar to the tomb from earlier, I'm going to try to do an airwalk here. Hopefully it doesn't take too many tries. It's like I meant. Alright. Ah, darn. The thing about airwalking is that it's a tight window. It's not quite frame perfect, but it's pretty close. There's a grapple animation timing that I'm trying to do here that actually give you the airwalk state. And so occasionally you'll get what I call, there we go, we got it. So occasionally you'll get what I call a freak out, where it looks, or not a freak out, but a fake out, where it looks glitch because the arrow in your hand, it's, as you try to run off the ledge you're on to attempt the airwalk, you'll just fall and grab onto the ledge instead of walking through the air like I am right now. So this airwalk I'm doing right now, it actually skips a big portion of the game. It avoids another fight with the Jaguar, like I mentioned before, a stealth section that you do with Jonah where you kill some Trinity soldiers, as well as a platforming section, or rather a flashback sequence where the game has you dealing with Lara, which is one of my favorite sections of the game, but we have to skip it for speed. So I just have to airwalk for about 30 seconds there, and then I can jump back in bounds. So yeah, I mentioned about the stealth section. This is the point where that would normally occur, but because we sequence broke this part real hard, none of the actors are loaded in. In fact, there's supposed to be a tank right here, as you can see, but because I did that sequence breaking from before, the tank is not loaded. And so let's see if we can continue on with the game. Speed up. Alright. So that leads into the next area of the game, which is Kuwagaku. Also, this section is a little odd. Jonah's normally supposed to be following you here into the actual town, but because of the sequence breaking that we did before, the walk and talk sequence with him doesn't trigger properly. Which that ends up saving a few seconds, actually, because we don't have to go trigger scene. And also, the game forcibly opens the map there, but this section can to cause my computer to enough it isn't right now. So anyway, kind of how these major areas are structured in a way. Within each of these hubs, there's a set of tasks. They're sort of like quests, I suppose. In the case of Kuwagaku here, we're supposed to go into a tomb and solve a puzzle. And along the way, we'd fight some Trinity. But I'm going to do a neat little trick here to avoid doing To start, I'm gonna go to this corner, and I'm gonna hold left while slowly moving the camera left. That clips me, ideally, on just like that, so I can jump out of bounds, then roll through this gap to get on, so I can jump on top of these rocks. I'm going to jump alongside this pyramid here, which is not too precise, but still can be kind of tricky. Alright, so this is the out of bounds where you can very clearly tell what's happening. For a lot of the out of bounds from here on out, at least for out of bounds like this where we go deep out of bounds, you'll notice that there's a lot of trees and shrubbery everywhere, because obviously the developers didn't intend for you to go this far out of bounds, and so they didn't really have to care about giving you any sort of visibility whatsoever. That's just something I have to keep in mind for later. There's like a few more out of bounds like that you'll see later. Alright, so after doing that out of bounds, I'm going to grab onto this ledge and jump back. By doing that, we trigger this line, where our current objective is to return to Kuwagyaku. So they've essentially tricked the game into thinking we're at the end of the Kuwagyaku quest started it. And so we can do all that tomb nonsense.
I saw something.
And I also did a small try. I rolled under that log just a bit ago. Normally there's a trigger that you there that walk through that, but by rolling through that gap, I avoided the trigger that forced me to airwalk, so I can jump roll through that. Saves around 10 to 20 seconds. I'm gonna try to hit that cutscene trigger from the side on the stairs there. It's a neat little trick that I do in my runs. Doesn't really save any time. Looks neat, I guess. So let's see here. We go into the ruins. Unfortunately, we trigger, and as a result of that trapping, we're forced to do a series of 3 trials. The trial of the jaguar, trial of the spider, and then the trial of the eagle. And so we're going to do the trial of the jaguar first, which is a swimming section. Also, those stairs, you would think jump rolling on them is faster, but it's because the ceiling is so close to the ground there, actually faster to just dodge it. These swimming sections I haven't mentioned yet is that there is an air gauge. Obviously, 1-0, you lose health and die. And meant to refage by interacting with some air bubbles like the ones in front of me right. But at a certain point also refills your air gauge and avoid the animation of using the air bubble. Reload checkpoint there, refill your air gauge so you don't have to waste time with the animation. It also makes this section a heck of a lot more consistent because by reloading checkpoint there, this eel that you'll see on the right side of the screen is in a consistent spawn every time, so I can just avoid him by going to the left of the room. You do need to be sure that you actually avoid the eel there, because if he aggroes onto you and gets close enough to you, he triggers a quick time event like the one we had in Jungle, where we have to stab him. And we want to make this an eel kill free run. So the trial of the spider here is a platforming puzzle. There's a trick I'm going to try to do here. I'll give it like 1 try and then just ditch it if it goes wrong. That wasn't the jump, by the way. That was just me trying to do a minor time saver on those ledges. And I mistimed the jump like an idiot. Of course I just fall back into the water again, because why not? So I'm gonna not do that trick again, just to make sure that I don't fall off. That was my bad. Alright, so before I do the trick, I'm gonna trigger this walk and talk sequence, just to be sure that I have full running speed to do this jump. Alright, I got it. So I grapple onto that ledge, and that skips a bit in this climbing puzzle. Or I'd have to grapple onto a rock and swing across to the other side. So this is the Trial of the Eagle, the last of the 3 trials that we have to do.
Jonah, I'm at the next trial.
And this is actually a pretty interesting puzzle when you do it as intended, and in fact it's my favorite puzzle in the entire game. Slow. So we're gonna do with another, but first I'm going to campfire again, because if you don't interact with the campfire, and which is hard to fail, but you get set really far back. So I'm gonna try and airwalk here on this, which I didn't get, so retry real quick. There we go, we got it that time. Third try actually, which is really nice. Or into this definitely solid rock. Rocks that are actually solid. Because there's a certain portion of the level that's currently unloaded, but we'll load in a second. Oh. So what happened there is I jumped, and if you just state, so because of that I have to retry. That was silly of me. Rather annoyed that happened. Hey, we got first try, the second yay. Alright, so I'm gonna again and not jump like an idiot. That was my bad. I was having trouble getting on top. Maybe I can get on top by jumping. And I realized, oh, it's your airwalk. So I'm gonna gain this rock and then run this general direction here. I mentioned before that that's currently unloaded right now that I want to get to, and you'll see it load in right there. It might look like I'm gonna miss. Next, or attached to this geometry, is a water hitbox, and my head is just barely gonna see water hitbox, so I get pulled back in bounds. I'm going to climb up to this ledge here, assuming I can actually get to the surface. There we go. I'm gonna climb on top. That triggers a checkpoint, which I will reload here, and then once the checkpoint is reloaded, in a second, the game's back to normal, so I can progress, and that skips the entire Trial of the Eagle. Saved a lot of time, even though I messed it up like a fool. Because that puzzle, I think, takes 5 minutes when you do it normally. About 5 minutes by skipping that. So you have an airwalk here. This one is kind of scary if I mess it up, because, which is possible, at the very end, I lose a minute. That's a little bit. Essentially, what it normally is there would be a section where we swing on those things that are on the overhang, and then we'd have to where we get captured by some locals of this village we're looking for in the plot. But by doing this airwalk here, we can do that cutscene and do the forming section. Before I attempt it though, I'm going to swing on that thing and jump back, because otherwise I'm on the ledge when I do this grab. There will instead focus on the thing hanging from the overhang. Right there, cool. So, this airwalk in particular is really scary. I basically want to be sure lose too much height as I do it, because if I lose too much height, I cutscene at the very end of this area that wastes a lot of time, probably 2 minutes to 3 minutes or so if you hit it. And what makes not hit that cutscene is, as you can see, there's a bunch of trees and shrubbery everywhere, like Kuwakyaku, and trees at all, I lose a bunch of height very quickly, upsetting. But luckily we're good since I don't at all. I'm actually gonna delete here. Go to the ground. Trigger a checkpoint there. I can reload that checkpoint in case I skip. So yeah, doing that, the capture cutscene I talked about, which is actually one of my favorite cutscenes in the game, but unfortunately, in that cutscene we would meet some key characters named Etsu, Unratu, and Uchu later. And an interesting side effect is that because we sequence breaks or went to this area and unintended, the NPCs are not loaded, and so the city is pretty barren right now, area, but they're deloaded at the moment. So there's two methods for this upcoming skip. You can either do an airwalk or another glitch that you'll be seeing later called skywalking. Well, I have to do the airwalk here because it's much easier. And it looks like I got it very quickly there, which is really nice. That airwalk I just did, as well as the airwalk in the Trial of the Eagle, can really just operate. See, I point there on the stairs to gain a bunch of height, so I can run to this pillar that's in the back. You normally do a set to get up here, but it's a lot harder. So I'm going to do some out of bounds on these rocks here. There we go. This last rock has some weird geometry, so hopefully I get on top of it relatively quickly. There we go. So we jump on top of those rocks, then we jump back in bounds. So that actually just skips a huge portion of the because by doing that, four are the Head of the Serpent, Mountain Temple, and Cenote. So yeah, that ends up saving around 45 minutes just by skipping all that out of bounds. We also skip another quest line that we'd have to do in here, where we rescue Unuratu, who I mentioned before. There's normally a door that would be closed, thereby forced to do the quest where we rescue Unuratu, but because of the sequence breaking that we did, that door is unloaded, so we can just proceed. And I also reload checkpoint is triggered. I want to enter this part here because we need here named Unuratu to can do this walking sequence here. And yeah. And if Unuratu isn't spawned in, we can't trigger the sequence. If you actually do try to start this sequence without Unuratu being spawned in, you'll get to the point where the / cutscene starts. You'll just get stuck in place, not really. Yeah, I have checked. Is it because of the drop frames? Oh my gosh. Honestly, I haven't been noticing the drop frames much, because this run has been going pretty decently, and I haven't been paying much attention to it.
Emperor said he wanted an end to violence. He sees it as an instrument.
Streaming this game and frame drops are kind of unavoidable. Because the thing with this game is that it is a game, and so it's very, very intensive, even on one. I could try lowering the bitrate a little bit. And tell you what, I'll try lowering it to 8. I have it set to 2,000 right now. I'll lower it to like 1,800 when we get out of this area. That's all I'll do. So yeah, anyway. What's happening at this point is we come across this character who is a fanatic worshipper of flying god / goddess named Kukulkan. And how he ties into the plot is, like Trinity, he wants to and he wants to use it for his own purposes, as he words it, of remaking the world in his image. And what makes that kind of hard to deal with at this point is, in order to prevent this plan from being stopped, Trinity, who again is the main villain of these games, has kind of given him the means that he needs to go through the courses of his cult members. So there'd be a fight sequence in this area where, spoilers, Unuratu dies. We want to keep speedrun, so we're just going to clip to this door with a scramble clip. Alright. Oh yeah, I mentioned I was going to change the bitrate, so one quick second. But whatever. Alright, I just lowered the bitrate. Hopefully the frames decide to calm down. It's okay, Defensier. We skipped the spoiler part. Yes, I got the bug! Okay, so... Okay, so this is special because, I just had a glitch happen here where, Jonah and Etsy decide to not spawn in during this cutscene, and so they're invisible for the scene. I've never had this happen. So this is pretty... This is something, to say the least. Also, the amulet is just clipping through Lara's knuckles there. Because of the fact that these cutscenes weren't really developed with the Tomb Raider 2 or old models in mind, they didn't bother to create an animation for the Tomb Raider 2 model of Lara opening her hand to hand Etsy the amulet. And so it just clipped knuckles there. No, I'm serious. Yeah, Lara and Etsy, or Jonah and Etsy decided to take the day off, I suppose. Also, this cutscene is supposed to be very emotional because of, like, the context behind this cutscene is, as I mentioned before, Unuratu dies in the fight sequence, and Lara hands over Etsy Unuratu's amulet. But because the characters are invisible for the cutscene, and also because of the fact that we kind of skip her death scene, it kind of loses some impact. Thankfully, Jonah's back in this cutscene, though. Now, we're about to get to probably my favorite area in this speedrun, the oil fields. It's my favorite area in the run because it's a nice mix of these stealth sections that you've seen me do before in Cozumel, but also a mix of some pretty good glitches. There's one particular skip that we do towards the beginning part of the section, and you'll see that later. But a common theme, I guess, a running theme with has a terrible time and is constantly like thrown around by whatever danger happens to come her way. For example, in this cutscene, we think we're safe from Trinity after the whole Cozumel, or after the whole Hidden City incident, but we're not. It turns out there's this helicopter that's still trying to kill us. Alright, so thankfully. Alright, so to start, I'm gonna dodge roll past these two guards. Notice the diamonds that appear on the screen. That's essentially the guard's alert meter. When it starts to fill up with white, that means they're suspicious of you in the area. And when it starts to fill up with red, that means they're aggroed onto you and will start shooting at you once it completely fills with red. And you really don't want the alert meter to get completely filled up to red like it almost did there. Because if it fills up completely with red, they start shooting at you, which makes you unable to climb ledges, which could definitely cause some problems later if certain stealth sections go awry. I'm going to reload checkpoint here. That avoids a cutscene where the camera pans out to show the rock face breaking apart. Alright, so here's the hardest skip in the run. We're supposed to get up that rock wall because we skipped a normally necessary piece of equipment called the overhang climbing gear. And we don't have any other means to get past this rock wall. So we're going to do this skip instead. So we're going to start off with an airwalk like I've done for most of the glitches so far. I'm going to dodge roll over to this cliff side right here. I'm going to walk up like this. I'm going to do a glitch called skywalking here, which hopefully I get first try because it's rather difficult. I thought I missed it there, but we still managed to save it because I was really low on the cliff face there. Alright, so I'm going to do this specific bit of movement right here. And what that actually did is it actually gave me, consistently gave me enough momentum to get up that rock wall. So yeah, skywalking. I'll explain how it works since we have some straightforward stealth sections here. So essentially how skywalking works is you tap the while you're falling down a little slope surface, you tap and layer to face you face forward. By doing that, you get her in a state where she's in the falling animation, but you can still control her and move her around. I did that there to get up that rock face to avoid using the overhang climbing gear. And to answer Hutch T's question, yes, there is a way to tell you at the airwalk. The way I'm able to tell is I have a setting turned on, center camera horizontally. That makes it so when I have the airwalk state, the camera will try to recenter itself by moving the camera to the left or the right. That way I'm able to tell I have the airwalk. Also, I had a talk sequence with Jonah by quick saving and quick loading, or not quick saving, quick loading, checkpoint reloading, I mean. So there's normally not bounds you can do in this section, but I'm not very confident with it at all, and you soft lock the game if you mess it up. So I'm just going to do this stealth section as is. And in the stealth section we get a new type of arrow called Jaguar Sphere, which is my favorite weapon in the game, because it's basically built-in friendly fire. You shoot an enemy with it, and it causes the enemy to hallucinate, and shoot their other comrades for you. Which makes going through this section really quick and safe, because there's a lot of enemies we'd have to deal with here. I'm not going to Jaguar Sphere right here, but I'm going to do it in this next section. I need to be sure that I'm quick doing this, because there's some enemies on my tail right now. I did not mean to shoot that guy with a regular arrow, so this might mess the strat up. What? Damn it. Damn it, that's like the just tired. And that's rather unfortunate, because if you fail at any part during that, you get sent all the way back to the very start of the stealth section. So that's like a minute lost each time you mess that up, which is rather frustrating. That's okay though, we can just give it another shot. There we go. So what I meant to do was what I did there, where I shoot that guy with a Jaguar Sphere. And then shoot that last guy with a regular arrow and then squeeze through this gap. That's what I meant to do, but I was a dum-dum and shot that one guy with a regular arrow. That's fine though, we still got past that. That section like 3 times. It was rather upset. We're good. So this is Roark. Some choice words. And the reason she has those choice words is because, he fools us right there into thinking that Jonah's dead. And so Lara is going to go on a bit of a rampage in a moment. Also, you can aim while you're slow walking here into the cutscene, and it looks rather silly. Okay. So we have a running sequence here. It's 4 with climbing section to be sure that I don't switch directions too quickly. Otherwise, I hold mash jump out of that cutscene. Skip over to the next ledge. While I am doing this section in bounds, there's a neat little trick I can do coming up here to save a little bit of time. Once I skip this cut, I move without stopping with some jump rolls here, and if I'm quick enough, I'll get ahead of this bridge right here before it collapses. You normally have to wait until that bridge collapses and then kill some guards, but you can just jump roll past the bridge and you're fine. So I have a fight sequence here with the helicopter, which is another running theme in these games, because you seem to fight helicopters a lot in the reboots, as it turns out. And we don't actually fight any enemies here, we just have to shoot some explosives that'll pop up throughout the kill in order for these barriers to explode. Barrels. There's one more barrel we have to shoot, and it's right there. So we shoot all the barrels, and the helicopter goes down. Oh, darn. I forgot to do a thing. The 2m2 skin I had before. I meant to equip it after the skywalk from before, in order to bring it in during this cutscene. But I forgot to do that. Because, and the reason I meant to bring it in is because this cutscene is great with the 2m2 skin. Because there's a point in this cutscene, as you'll see, where Lara will start crying, and it doesn't look like she's crying with the 2m2 skin on, but she just has this deadpan face the entire time.
Making everything.
And essentially what's happening in this cutscene is, of course, Lara's gonna cry after realizing what she's done, and realizing that she was faked out by Roark, who, Roark, by the way, is the person that's been commanding the Trinity forces that have been trying to kill us, and he becomes one of the main villains of the game. After all this crying that she does, because, you know, dramatic cutscenes, she has a eureka moment, where she realizes that where the next clue is this Church of San Juan for the next area.
Wait.
Mission of San Juan actually is one of the shortest. Splits take around 3 minutes at the very least, and Mission of San Juan is the shortest of the bunch. Done optimally, it's a bit over 3 minutes.
The palace is a symbol of St. John. We're looking for a Christian holy site.
Like the Church of San Juan. That's a pretty common name. Could be dozens.
Not within tracking distance from Paititi.
Come on, the road is this way. We'll get out of here, talk to some people.
What would I do without you?
Alright. So we'll be able to skip this once. Gets out of the car in a few. Mission of San Juan is a pretty cool area, actually. There's some neat puzzles that we would do here. But again, as I said in the trial, first, though, I'm going to go over to... And I'm not going to forget this time to put on this. And remember this time, I promise. There we go. The safety blanket. Alright, way out to the side here. Point in this area where I'm going to try to clip out of bound. Which is right here next to this. This particular clip used to be the most inconsistent clip in the entire game. And then move the camera down left as well. You'll clip out right there every single time. Again, another out of bounds happening because there's a bunch of trees and shrubbery everywhere. Here for a moment, just let the map load in so I can do the rest of the skip. Oh, I missed it. So I was trying to do a very tight jump there to get on top of that steeple. Unfortunately, I messed it up. Luckily, there is a backup I have for this, which you'll see here. It basically involves just shooting these first 4 guards here with some arrows. Uh-oh, I might actually die here. Ah, damn it. A bit too careless there. I actually shot it, and that... I think that's all of them. Yeah. So I just do a... I do a scramble clip with the assault rifle this time instead of the pistol or the bow, because it makes that particular clip really consistent. And I clipped through that door there, just because it makes going feel really consistent at the end. Kind of like that fight sequence. You can actually skip this sequence with a scramble clip as well, but you actually can't do that in a run, because if there's a cutscene at the end of this area, and that trigger only exists or appears once you complete this fight sequence. So we do actually have to fight the enemies here, which is rather slow, but we'll get through it. There? Yeah, there he is. He's squirrely. There we go, got him. I don't know how I missed that one guy, but still, we got through the fight sequence. Jonah tries to get the silver. By the way, what's happening in this area? I haven't done clock catch up in a bit. What's supposed to happen in this area is you do the puzzles that I mentioned before, and you come across the silver box, which is kind of part 2 of the supplies that we need to
Jonah.
stop the apocalypse from happening. And unfortunately, it slips from our fingers. Dominguez there gets a hold of it instead. Jonah tries to get it back, but he fails. And kind of the thing with the apocalypse I mentioned before, the apocalypse prophecy from Merle, that some natural, which are actually really cool. They're probably the best action sequences in the game, in my opinion. Anyway, we're gonna have one here where we have a landslide, and we have to outrun the landslide. And this section is pretty straightforward. I just have to jump roll optimally, as you'll see here. But you want to be sure that you don't jump roll too much, because if you jump roll too much, you'll breaking apart the ground obstacles here. The sequence, so you'll result. And if you are too slow in this, landslide will catch up to you and you'll die instantly. Yeah, it is Serpio. It's a bonus skin that developers put in from Tomb Raider 2. So this section is pretty straightforward as well. I just have to be sure that I grapple on, or it's the point that it's right here when I run across these ledges. Because sometimes right there, the grapple just doesn't connect. And it's rather annoying. Yeah, this game just hates OBS. It stutters a lot. That time the grapple connected, thank goodness. You can see there's a lot of inconsistencies with the platforming in this game, and it's even more frustrating in the glitchless category, because obviously in that category you do a lot more of the platforming and climbing since you don't skip much content in that run. And so there's a lot of potential for time loss in that particular category. One second. So, unfortunately, Dominguez took the black.
I'm sorry, I lost the box.
Or Dominguez took the silver box from us, and because of that, we have to formulate a plan to get the silver box back from him, which is what's going to happen in this next cutscene. Or actually, a series of 2 cutscenes. We kind of get 2 cutscenes back to back here. That gets segmented like 4. Game a lot more if it had no cutscenes, but again, just the nature of this game. I want to give quick props, by the way, to the voice actors in this game, because I really like how they portray their portrayals of the characters in this. Especially Etzley's. There's one line in particular scene I really like. As much as for being a kind of bad speedrun because of the cutscene, a really good game. Definitely my game of the year for 2018, I think, alongside Celeste. Because I just really enjoyed playing through it casually. Unfortunately, though, I didn't play through any of the side content, which is something I have yet to do. So I'll probably end up doing that at some point. So yeah, that's 4 seconds of gameplay, by the way. Go up and which is, in these games are called turn, because game where we don't have access to any campfire saves whatsoever. Which you would think would be a problem, but luckily I have a backup save in case I mess up an upcoming skip. So yeah, I'm actually curious right now. How have you guys been enjoying this run? Because I personally feel like this hasn't been my best performance in this game, but I feel like at the same time it's going decently. That's the line, by the way, that I was talking about. I just really like that line in particular. Because it's like that moment in movies and games where a higher up of a group, in this case the tribe, passes on the torch. I just really like that moment in particular. So we have the last area of the game here. Call it the point of let's get the server. Hold on 1 second. Okay. I had to text someone real quick. Anyway, we start this off with I wasn't gonna quick save, but reload checkpoints or point stage. I did it right there, and I'll do it on another section coming up. But other than that, this is some pretty straightforward swimming. There's not a whole lot to it. Really, the most that you have to do here is make sure that Lara doesn't bump into these rocks. You can see that there's some rocks falling around Lara, but you don't really have to worry about bumping into them. At most, you'd probably only lose maybe a second or two by bumping into the rocks, and it doesn't matter if you do. So yeah, that's the second checkpoint reload, and the last one I'll be doing here, because this swimming section will end shortly. There's only a little bit more of it. The exit is in this gap coming up. Also, I'm curious, what is my time at the moment? Because I wonder how close I am to estimate at the current moment. But anyway, so this is the City of the Serpent, as you can see with that objective right there. You're supposed to do to get up to the final boss in the airwalk. 11407, that's a rather tight window. Hopefully I got it. There we go, we got it. Alright, so I'm just going to airwalk over to this rock face here to climb up it. And we're not out of the woods yet, because you can see that there's these helicopters flying around the background. Normally they're not a problem, because they're not supposed to be able to hit you normally. But because I'm running out of helicopters go, there's a good chance if they get too close to there, that they can hit you, and if they hit you, it completely kills your airwalk, and you'll have to start the airwalk from the beginning. I've had it happen very rarely, though, so it shouldn't happen here, hopefully. It'll be rather surprising if it did. Alright, so I've got to the rock face now, and this particular rock face is much cheaper than most other surfaces we tried to make so far. And so when we're face here, you're going to tag. And you'll notice as I'm running through the air here, that I'll occasionally shake my camera. I kind of already mentioned it when I answered Hutch T's question during the oil fields, but because of the camera setting I have turned on right now, center camera horizontally, whenever you have the airwalk state like this, the game will constantly try to recenter the camera by turning it to the left or right, and the only way to prevent that from being is to. So unfortunately, is not kind to people. If you have motion sickness and you're watching this run, then during the parts where I shake the camera. There we go. So another annoying thing about this map hasn't occurred yet is there's tiny bits of collision on this mountain where it will completely kill my sprint. I have to repress start running again. It's a minor time loss. It doesn't. If it happens, they're annoying. I'm gonna run over to the top of this tower here. Why am I going to the top of this tower? Final bosses. We can skip straight to the final boss instead of having to do all that climb described before. And we've actually sequence probed the final boss. Normally when you break to trigger the final boss, there'd be some cult members chasing you and trying to kill you. But because we entered this area in an unintended way, open these pedestals without any issues whatsoever. Alright, so now we have the final boss. And the final boss will be with Dominguez here. The final boss is actually pretty easy as final bosses go. You'll see once we gain control here that I'm going to shoot Dominguez with the assault rifle primarily. You'll see them all. Enough. This orange orb will spawn here, and then I melee him to stab him. And then once it progresses to the next phase, 5 phases of this, and we just did the first phase, so. And for these first 3 phases or so, I want to be careful that I don't die, because if you die before you finish the 3rd checkpoint, you'll have to start this fight from the beginning, since you do not check phase. So again, die, which is really pretty easy, but because like I said, this final boss is pretty easy, but if you're not careful, you can definitely die to Dominguez. It's pretty hard, but it can happen. You can either run at you and try to do a sword attack, or you can just like stand in place and shoot arrows. Standing in place and shooting arrows like he did just there, that's the best pattern, because he's standing still for the duration of the animation, so you can just like unload a bunch of bullets into him. So once that checkpoint phase, reload it, my assault rifle. Alright, so like once again, just unload a bunch of bullets into him to quickly get rid of the 4th phase. And now we have the 5th phase here already. Timing is going to be when I finish off the phase and the ending cutscene starts where Dominguez dies. Alright, and time. There we go, time. I called time prematurely, but whatever, we got it. Average to me, given some mistakes I made on like the new skip that I failed, but 120.04, sick. Oh darn it. Just barely not sub 120. I'm mad. So I would let the ending cutscenes play out, but for one, I don't want the marathon behind schedule. And the secret last yeah, ending clock. There's a point in the cutscenes where the last bit for the credits, the cutscenes won't actually load. It'll be later again, and gets stuck in green. So unfortunately, we can't watch the ending cutscenes for any percent runs, which is big sad, but it's fine. But yeah, let's show the Tomb Raider. I hope you enjoyed that.